And I've been a master of living too much time in the future, too much time in the past, and having it rob me from being present. And being present is ultimately where joy exists, whether that's in business or any area of your life. You've got to consider slowing down and looking at things from that 100-foot view so that you can keep a perspective. And you have got to prioritize gratitude. What's up, guys? Luke Krubeck, the Progressive Resistance Podcast, coming at you with episode 10. In a new venue, new little backdrop here. For those of you that just listen to the podcast, that won't probably mean much to you. For those of you that watch it, yeah, little change of scenery. This new little venue that I'll be recording in occasionally, the main idea here is that as I get topics that I've been kind of chewing on, when it's on my brain, I want to get it off my brain and hopefully into yours. I want to get you thinking about some ideas and continue down this path of personal development with you guys and progressive resistance, if you will. And this is going to be an opportunity to maybe push out a little bit more volume, maybe some shorter podcasts with just myself, and just continue to get some information out there. I will continue to have guests on as well, so don't worry. We're going to keep the conversations going the way we have with some of the great guests we've had. So here on episode 10, I want to sit down with you guys. I want to talk about productivity. Productivity is something I've been thinking about a lot lately, and what does that look like for me? How do we become more productive at our craft and in life? And what are some of the things or metrics or quantifiable ingredients to that recipe? And so I'm going to touch on a few of them today. Of course, when it comes to productivity, I mean, we could probably do 5 episodes alone on that. But I'm just going to throw at you guys, see what sticks, a few things that I've been chewing on that are on my radar for my own productivity personally, So let's get into it. I was exposed to the idea of the 4 Ds. The 4 Ds being, this is something we look at for everything that's on your current to-do list. All right? On your current running to-do list, which yours I'm sure is massive just like mine. It's do, delay, delegate, and delete. Looking at my to-do list and putting them in one of those 4 categories has been super helpful to me, especially from the conceptual idea that, how to eat an elephant, one bite at a time, right? We can only do one thing at a time. So as we go through that running to-do list, it helps us establish what's the order of operation and what do we need to prioritize? What are the things that I need to do right now? What are the things on that list that perhaps I can delay because they don't need to be done yesterday? What on that list can I delegate? And what on that list ultimately can just be deleted and doesn't need to be there right now? Because Lord knows there's a few of those. The one for me that's been, I think, most helpful is some of the small little trivial things that hang out on the list that they're not a big deal, but they end up just adding unnecessary stress. If you're like me, I tend to function from a place of I'll get it done. I'll handle it. I'll take care of it. And when it comes to Team Krubeck and some of these really generic things that I don't have to necessarily be the one that does it, I try to stack them all on. What I've been trying to get better about is delegating some of those things to my wife. Calling the insurance company, general running of errands for, dropping something off to the accountant, stuff like that I tend to just by default stack it on my to-do list, and it doesn't necessarily need to be there. She's more than willing to help and ask me all the time, but sometimes I hang on to stuff more than I need to. So the delegation piece has been a nice thing for me within my partnership with my spouse. On the business side of it, I'm in some ways kind of a one-man show, so it's the delegation isn't as big of an opportunity there, but something that may help you guys as well. So for me, the delegation's been huge, but just looking at my list in this light, what's due, What do I need done right now? What can I delay? What can I delegate? And what just needs to be deleted? So the 4 Ds, test them out, try them out, and apply it to your running to-do list. See what happens. Next, life is a balance. We talked about that when I had Phil on as a guest. We talked about life and work balance. As challenging as that is to find, what does balance look like when it comes to our craft, our career, our work, and maybe the other things, right? So not to beat the dead horse on that subject that Phil and I talked about, but there has to be a balance. And I want to talk about 2 things that I find important to balance. The first is balancing essentially my spiritual life and balancing my worldly life. Now, I don't care what your religious beliefs are. I would say for the most part, each one of us functions from some place of spirit, some sort of spirituality, if you will, excuse me. And it's, what do you do with that, and how do you prioritize that in your life? Ironically, I'm wearing my God Family Freedom Weights shirt right now. That I didn't plan that, actually. But that's my order of operation. God, family, freedom, weights. Obviously, there's more on that list, and freedom means a lot of things to me, but God is first. I work hard to keep an eternal perspective on what really matters, the real reasons why I'm even here. But the balancing act between our spiritual health, the spiritual work we're putting in, versus the worldly work towards maybe our craft and our monetary goals and aspirations, what's that balance look like? And I think that balance also should create a certain order of operation for you. But both, you need to be tuning into both, investing into both, so that ultimately you can show up the way you need to show up. So that's the first piece of the balancing act that I wanted to talk about. And the second is right brain, left brain. Without getting too into the weeds of what the different hemispheres of the brain do, let's just all agree that there's a more of a creative side and more of like maybe an objective side. What are you doing for the creative side? Because I'm here to tell you that that side of you can help the other so much as a way for you to sharpen the proverbial saw. It matters. I believe that to my core. If you're watching this, the new venue, the new backdrop with me right now is a wall of guitars. Music and guitar playing has very much been a stress reliever in my life. It has allowed me access to emotions that otherwise I don't believe I would have access to. We all have something creative that we do or that we're connected to or that we like. And maybe it's a skill that you wouldn't even call a talent yet, but it's something you have interest in. Fine. Figure out what that creative piece of the puzzle is for you and start contributing a little bit of time to it. It doesn't have to be a lot, but figure out what that is and plug it in, because I'm here to tell you that it will help you balance your scale, and it will give you a creative outlet that will help you again sharpen that proverbial saw, so that when you do show up for your craft and your regular workload, you're more equipped to handle what it's going to throw at you. We talk a lot about finding your anchor in life, right? Whether it's fitness, lifting weights, things like that. But I also think there's value on the creative side of our brain. Find something creative and lean into it, and figure out a way to plug it in as perhaps one of your non-negotiables. So, next, what's our work capacity? Work capacity is an interesting thing. I've watched several people in my life, people that I've worked with, people that I've worked for, on the way they approach the task at hand, and sometimes the long hours that have to be worked. Now, as a business owner, I know firsthand that the hours you work are extensive comparatively to being an employee somewhere. Of course, that's the nature of the game. But even so, what's your work capacity? And what I mean by that is, how long can you get locked in? Can you get locked in and just crush and keep momentum heading the right way before you start spinning your wheels? That's different for everybody. And yeah, sometimes you got to do what you got to do and you got to be there. You got to get shit done. I get it. But what if it's just like you working in the background and churning away on the running to-do list, okay? Can you get locked in for 2 hours? Can you get locked in for 4? Can you get locked in for 6? What's your work capacity before you start spinning your wheels? Figure out what that is, establish that, get locked in for that amount of time, and then step away from it. What does stepping away from it look like? It could be something as simple as getting up from your desk and taking a walk. It could be, for me, if I'm working in the office, been working there all day doing administrative stuff, sometimes it's me stepping out into the gym, just walking around, maybe chatting with some members, and maybe it's just me going out there and getting a quick arm pump and getting some blood moving, doing some pull-ups and some dips, just something to get some blood moving, get some circulation moving, change the scenery. Maybe it's what I'll also do is when I'm getting towards the end of that work capacity for me personally, I'm like, boom, okay, it's time for me to run some errands. Because inevitably I've got something on my to-do list that I've got to leave the gym for anyways. But figure out what your work capacity is. And for you, maybe it's just like completely stepping away from it. And, Alex Hormozy talks about this, and I think he used Netflix as an example, that his work capacity was X, and then he would step away and binge Netflix for Y, and then he could go back and crush again. Like, figure out what your capacity is and figure out the best way for you to step away from it so that you can come back and get locked in again. And that's something you could look at from a daily standpoint, from a weekly standpoint, from a monthly standpoint. Like, what's my capacity before I need a break? How many weeks in a row can I go through my regular routine before I need to take a weekend? Me and the wife need to get away. Figure out what your capacity is, because I'm telling you, that is part of the equation. And though you're leaving the work at hand, you might end up getting twice as much done if you know what your potential is and at what accuracy you can work for how long. I think there's value in taking an inventory of that. Next, let's talk about, again, accountability. Accountability with yourself, and then accountability with others. On the journey of becoming the person, the individual, the business owner, anything that you want to be, there has to be some accountability, right? Talked about it in past podcasts a lot, talking about non-negotiables, figuring out what those are, organizing your life in maybe categories of health, all of these things that we've discussed, and then holding yourself accountable to those. And it's important to revisit them and figure out, like a game of chess, what needs to be moved where, and then initiate them, complete them, review them weekly. How did you do? Wins and losses, all that good stuff. But also on the accountability side, what are your accountability with others? Find people that can help you, that are like-minded, that can hold you accountable, hold your feet to the fire, that you can have a shoulder to lean on if needed, someone to help you troubleshoot problems, to work through hurdles that you might be facing. Find those people and get locked in with them. Have those conversations regularly. I talked about and I shared some of those meetings that I have in my life, and I'll go through them again, but I have them essentially 3 main ones a week right now, and a couple others here and there, but I have one with my wife and I have 2 with some friends of mine. And it's an opportunity to sit down, and some days it's a little bit more free-flowing and honestly just like we're shooting the shit a little bit because there's just not much on either of ours radar of main sticking points or pain points that we have since we spoke last. And other times we're working through some troublesome tasks at hand and how to navigate through those. Some maybe from work, some maybe from other areas of life, but find those people that can help you provide accountability to your goals. I believe it's important, and I believe it can help us, and I think we undervalue those conversations. And it's like, it's just keep showing up and just do the work. And like, yeah, you got to do the work. But if you can align yourself with people that are like-minded, and they can help lead you and guide you and keep you on track. And again, maybe call you on your stuff a little bit, right? That's helpful too. So find those touch points with yourself, whether it's your weekly planning meeting with yourself. I desperately encourage it with your spouse and anyone that you may work with directly, if you have business partners, things like that. If you don't have these regular check-ins, things get away from you, things get brushed under the rug, things just never really get fixed. And I think down the line, those little small things can become bigger problems, whatever those are. But find the accountability within yourself, within others, that can help keep you on track and ultimately towards the productivity that we're all after. The other thing that I find valuable with my own little journey here, and as I assess my own productivity, is keeping appropriate perspective. And that's really tough to do when you've got big dreams and big goals. But you have to find time for gratitude. You have to take the occasional moment to celebrate the wins. You have to take the time to look at where you started to how far you've gotten, because that's part of the journey of ultimately where you're still wanting to go. And that's sometimes what can keep you going. And I have to do that sometimes when I feel like I'm hitting a wall and I get frustrated with what I feel like is the lack of progress that I'm seeing. I sometimes have to look back and keep things in perspective. I had a moment like that last week, feeling frustrated, feeling like things aren't moving at the speed or the rate that I want them to. The big goals that I have in front of me still feel further away than I want them to be. And I had to sit back and I had to force myself to look at how far I've come and remind myself that the Barbell Club, for example, it's been operational for 4 years. That's it. So, keep it in perspective, trying to find the right amount of gratitude that can help me have patience, and the right kind of gratitude at looking at the wins that I'm having already and the progress that I am showing, and that can keep feeding the momentum to have the faith to keep going and play the long game. It's super important to do. And I've been a master of living too much time in the future, too much time in the past, and having it rob me from being present. And being present is ultimately where joy exists. Whether that's in business or any area of your life, you've got to consider slowing down and looking at things from that 100-foot view so that you can keep a perspective. And you have got to prioritize gratitude. Gratitude in everything, our wins and especially in our losses. We don't ultimately learn anything from our wins, do we? Other than it felt awesome. And then we want to do that again. That feels good to win. Hell yeah, it does. Sucks to lose. I hate losing so much. I hate losing. But our losses and our failures, that's free college. That's where we learn. So maybe not resisting it so much and taking the losses. We talk about that a lot from the accountability standpoint, is as you go through your wins and losses. That's why we want to celebrate the wins, right? Yeah, I want to celebrate them, but then let's spend some time learning from the losses, because if we add gratitude to that, every loss has some win in it. I guarantee it. It takes a minute to see it. And maybe we don't see it until sometimes way down the line. But there's something from each loss, each failure, each hurdle that can teach us something. And I think it's important to tune in on that. So to wrap it up, to review, to finish this little discussion of productivity, the 4 Ds: do, delay, delegate, delete. See what those do for you on that running to-do list that is as extensive for you as it is for me, I'm sure. The 4 Ds, they're helpful. They're helpful. I truly simple but effective. Next is, what's your balance? Find your spiritual and your worldly or secular balance. Find that, because I think that's important to the ultimate goal and our longevity, if you will. The next is balancing the creative side of your brain versus maybe the more objective side. Find something in the creative space that can give you the break that perhaps you need and help you sharpen that proverbial saw. I'm telling you, it works. Next is, what's your work capacity? Figure that out on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, a monthly basis. Figure out what your capacity is so you can tune in for that timestamp and then step away when it's time so that you can come back and crush it again. And then the last thing is the accountability with yourself and accountability with others that can help keep you on task, keep you on track, and help you through the sticking points and the pain points that you might be having with your own progress. And someone that can help you celebrate those wins, and someone that can help you do that last thing that we were talking about, which is staying present, having gratitude in the wins and in the losses, because why not? What better option is there? And someone that can help you have that 100-foot view and keep your prize on the eyeball. So I hope something from this helps you guys. I hope you found maybe one little nugget in there that you can take forward and you can apply. It's a process. It certainly is for me, and I am currently trying to improve my own productivity, hence why we're discussing that today. So thanks for tuning in. As always, please don't forget to subscribe, to like, to share. I want to spread the good word. I want to keep on the process to build the better you in and outside of the gym, live the one more rep philosophy. I appreciate you guys, and here's to the better versions of ourselves. Until next time.